What's up, y'all? It's Shakari. Welcome back to my channel. Look, I'm so happy that I done made it toward the end of the first quarter of the year. We are in March, and I'm also excited because me and my husband have made 6 years married this month, and I don't know, just the vibes are different. Like, I've just been in a totally different headspace lately. I've decided to like really change my mindset towards a lot of things in life, and I feel so much lighter. And I've been thinking about everything I've been through in the past few years, moving from Chicago to Austin, from Austin to LA, from LA back to Chicago, from Chicago back to Austin. And through that time, starting a business, ending a business, pursuing my career, pausing on pursuing my career, having a baby, getting an unexpected diagnosis, and literally 1,000 pivots, and still having the energy to keep going. In 2021, after a year of being married, me and my husband decided to leave Chicago, where we're from, and move to Austin, Texas. So, Austin, Texas is like on the lowest of keys, maybe not the lowest of keys, but like Austin is an up and coming film city. And at the time, my husband was pursuing his degree, his master's actually in directing. I was working in fashion, but I really wanted to get back to acting because that's always something that I had wanted to do as a kid. I had always wanted to be in entertainment. So we decided to move to Austin for him to shoot his thesis film. And I actually was one of the lead characters in that film. And so we came to Austin, shot the film. It was awesome. And once we wrapped, he went right into editing mode. And I started to rebrand this fashion brand that I started back in Chicago. And I love the rebrand. It was awesome. It was more true to my style and aesthetic than the first brand was. And but ultimately I decided to kind of like put it back on the shelf because we low key ran out of money to keep it going. And the pieces wasn't necessarily like flying off the shelf or nothing like that because it was a new brand. And at the time, you know, you get a little bummed out about stuff like that, but you also, I understood that it was something new that I was doing. And when it comes to any business, especially like a clothing line, like you have to give people time to get like used to the products and everything like that, and build relationship with you and everything. But I was also low key feeling the way about acting and like wanting to pursue that. And at the time, I would be like, I don't want to just be known for fashion. Like I want to really just focus on acting, blah blah blah. My husband's like, you don't have to choose. Like you could do both, but really we just didn't have the money to keep funding it. And so I kind of pivoted into wanting to take acting more serious. And I remember Sam was also having a moment to where he was feeling the way about his career. And it was his 30th birthday. And he's just like, I feel like I should be further along. We all do that. Like, you get, up there in age, or like you're starting to get older, more mature. You're just like, man, like, I should be doing something else. I should be bigger, whatever the case may be. And so ultimately, we decided to move to LA. And that low key was like the beginning of all hell breaking loose. Just the energy of like how it was when we were traveling there, because we actually drove to LA, left, got rid of our couch, got rid of our bed, got rid of like all the big furniture. We packed whatever we could in the car and we moved to LA. And on the way there, I lose a hubcap. Sam had on this Dreamville t-shirt. A bird poops on the Dreamville t-shirt. When we got there, Sam lost a gold chain that he bought in Croatia. And our apartment also wasn't ready. And so we had to stay with a friend for like 4 days. It was just not the best way to start off a new journey. And so, but anyway, we kept trekking. I was at the time I was working at a middle school as a teaching assistant, which was great for me. Steady income Monday through Friday. I'm off by 2:30. And I had time to pursue acting. So I was going to acting class and stuff like that. And Sam was actually working for NYFA, New York Film Academy, and was making connections there and everything. But our financials started to take a dip because my job was consistent, but his job wasn't as consistent. And so, and then the rent is not cheap. Our apartment in Texas was way less expensive than our apartment in LA. And it was also bigger than our apartment in LA. But y'all know LA is notorious for having small, overly priced apartments. But we tried to enjoy that time as much as we could. Like, we would go to Pasadena often because there was a movie theater that we loved out there, a Mexican restaurant that we loved out there. We would pop into Burbank. You know, we had our coffee shops that we loved. We would go to the library, go on hikes. Like, LA is a beautiful city. So it wasn't hard to like try to find some type of joy. But honestly, like, the longer we were there, the more, like, the deeper the financial decline became. And so it was like a struggle for real. And I'm smiling, I can, be happy now and smile about it now because it's the past and, we've learned and grown from it. But at the time, that was so heavy on us because it's like I'm trying to pursue my career in acting. Sam is trying to gain traction as a filmmaker. And it's like, so it's even hard to focus on that because now you have to really just focus on surviving. It was tough for a while. And then at the top of 2023, we found out that we were pregnant. And so that was everything because we were literally having such a hard time. Finding out we were pregnant, it was like a beacon of light, and it just gave us something to be excited about and something to look forward to. And during that whole time we were there, Sam was like applying for different jobs and this, and that, and nothing was biting. But we continued to move forward. We tried to stay as optimistic as we could, but sometimes it was hard not to be crushed in spirit. And I remember when I was 13 weeks pregnant, I'm at work, I'm out of my business, I'm on lunch, I get a phone call and the woman on the phone, she's just like, hi, can I speak to Sha'Carri Laws? And I'm like, oh, this is she. But I could tell from the tone of her voice that she had something to say. Like, I don't know, it just didn't feel right. And so I was like, you know what, let me call my husband real quick. She's like, yeah, call your husband. Girl. So I'll call him and I'm just, okay, yeah, he's on the phone. And she's like, yeah, so, we did the genetics testing and your baby has a 96% chance of having Down syndrome. And it literally felt like a wall had fell on me. And like, I just felt my heart just started beating out of my chest. And I was like, I got super nervous and I just couldn't contain my emotions. I had to kind of like find a corner. I was literally at work, at the school. I had to find a corner to dip off into and I was just bawling, crying. I heard nothing else on the phone call because it's like that's just something that you don't expect. Nothing crossed my mind that, my child would have a diagnosis. And so, especially after the year we had, it just felt so unfair. It just felt it was a lot for us. And so I remember Sam came and picked me up and we went home and we was just crying. And then that crying ended up leading to us just crying out to God and praying and worshiping and just trying to understand like why, And I remember God saying to me while I was praying, because I was so mad. And he said to me, he was like, it doesn't matter what it looks like. And to be honest, they gave me so much comfort. And I had to realize like, yo, the Bible says, don't fear no bad report. Even if, she does have Down syndrome, I still have to believe that my baby is going to be okay. And so overall, we, got that news and decided to just kind of move forward with just still a positive mindset about the life of our daughter. We didn't tell nobody. We told our parents, but outside of our parents, like we really didn't share that information because I didn't want anybody pitying my daughter, or damning her existence. Already seeing what her life is going to be before it even starts. And so I low key kept that to myself until she was like a year old. So, we had to really make some hard decisions. Like, do we want to continue to live in LA? And we were still kind of popping around looking at apartments because our lease was coming to an end. And so, mind you, that rent was not cheap. And we looking at places that cost even more than where we were staying. And so we was like being overly optimistic about our reality. Ultimately, we had decided to move back to Chicago. And I remember I told my acting coach, I was like, yeah, I'm just really going through a lot. I'm pregnant. We have to save money. I might have to stop coming to class. And she was so encouraging. She was like, you look great. You're not showing. You can still go on auditions and yada, yada, yada. So I'm like, yeah, you low-key right. But at the time, it was just, I couldn't even really think about that because I was really trying to not feel broken on the inside about everything that was happening to us. And so drove our little truck down to Chicago, and we ended up getting our apartment like maybe a week before I gave birth. Low-key, when we got to Chicago, we got there just in time for him to graduate, or for him to participate in graduation, to finally get his degree, his master's. And me and his best friend were there, and we got to see him walk the stage, which was so awesome. And after that, we got our apartment maybe like a week before I gave birth. And that was traumatic. That was a lot for me because I was really hoping and praying that I would have a natural vaginal birth. A C-section was the last thing that I wanted. But that's exactly what I had to have. I had to have this emergency C-section. And what was crazy was the girl who performed my C-section, she actually got her training under the woman who was my OB in Los Angeles. Both Black women, both amazing. So I was lucky that was my situation. But I was so traumatized by that whole experience. Like, I actually might be one and done. But anyway, so we have our baby. After we had her, nothing else mattered. She came out, she was perfect, and I was so grateful to God for that, because a lot of the time when children with Down syndrome, they can be born with other, because of that extra chromosome, everything is not, doesn't necessarily develop in a typical way. And so sometimes they have other issues, but she was born with no other issues. And I was really grateful for that. But my mom would still wonder, does she really have it? Because after the baby's born, they do additional genetics testing just to clarify, just to make sure. And so I remember she's a couple weeks and we get the call and they're like, yeah, she definitely does. And in our heart of hearts, we knew that she did, but we were hoping that wasn't the case, because you just don't know what that looks like for your child. And we wasn't sure just what her experience was going to be like. But she's been such a blessing to us. And that first year of her life, it was just, I was able to be at home with her. I had told Sam when we got married, I'm like, whenever I have kids, I have to spend that first year with my kid. That was just something that I wanted to do, because I wanted to be there to nurture and support her. And this girl, she was just doing everything. She met all of her milestones on time. And I was just so proud of my baby girl. It was just amazing being able to be there with her and be there for her and support her. But postpartum was kicking my tail, okay? Because I'm trying to get used to this new person that I am. My body is different. Things are changing. And all of my, endeavors have kind of been put on hold. My husband is working full time, trying to revive us financially. So that was kind of a little bit heavy for him too, because we both had to press pause on everything that we were doing. But around the time she was getting close to 1 year old, me and God were spending a lot of time together. reviving our relationship, because I had to figure out a way how to trust God again, because I kind of felt like, why did you allow this to happen? But so me and God, we were really working through a lot of things, and I decided to start a podcast, which was something that was kind of on my spirit to do some years before, but I just had never done it, and I was always just kind of nervous to do it. But I decided to do it, and I was so excited about it because that was like me kind of stepping into my creativity again. I wanted to create a space where I can connect with like other people, and like we can all kind of be on this growth journey, getting to know God intentionally together. That's just the space that I was in. And so it was really fun doing that. Me and my husband, we shot it together, and we would always shoot at night because that was, being new parents, that was the only time that we had. And so as soon as baby girl would go to sleep, I would record. I really enjoyed doing that. But then, we decided to take another pivot. Still, we're trying to revive ourselves from LA. LA had really, everything about living in LA really shook us. And so now we're back in Chicago trying to patch things together, but everything is not necessarily moving the way we want it to move. So we have a conversation. We make the decision to move back to Austin because we're thinking like, okay, we need to kind of press pause. Where can we go where we can kind of get our family back on track? Where can we go where we have connections? And, and Austin was that place. We loved living in Austin the first year that we did. And we always talked about going back. And so it just felt like it was the right time. Literally, when we made that decision, we were gone like maybe not even a month later. And not even 2 weeks later, we was gone. And that was a hard decision to make because it was tough for our family and friends to understand what we were doing, but we had to make that pivot for our family. And at this point, we were used to pivoting and moving how we needed to for the betterment of our unit. And it was tough for me too, because I was postpartum. I would have been away from my mom, away from my friends, but I was also prepared to do whatever I needed to do. We made that pivot, packed up again, drove our newly 1-year-old down to Austin, Texas. And I honestly feel like, that was the right decision for us. So I had to put the podcast on hold. And I told myself, okay, well, I'll just pick it back up, yada, yada, yada. A year goes by and I do nothing. Now I'm in a space where my baby is now 2, and I'm not trying to get back to who I used to be. I'm trying to get on track with like who God is building me up to be. When we first moved back, I went through a period where I had a couple jobs, and the last job I had really took a lot out of me. It was very emotionally draining and physically draining, and I was grumpy. I wasn't nice. I wasn't able to spend enough time with my family, and that just wasn't working for me. So I had to choose my heart. Either I'm going to continue to just live this life where I wake up and go to work, or I'm going to get back to my craft and back to what I feel like God is pulling me to do. I've literally have been 7 people in 6 years, and I'm still not afraid to switch up and change whatever I need to change, because time is so fleeting. And it's like you don't want to rush and do things because you have time, but you also don't have time. So it's like the whole thing is just being intentional about what you have in front of you and the time that you have. And I told myself that this year I'm going to be responsible with my free will. If there's something that I don't know, I need to learn it. If there's something that I want to get better at, I need to take the lessons. And so now I've decided, okay, I'm going to get back into acting. And at first I was like, okay, well, I don't want to do anything until I lose weight. No, you need to just hop in. And so I told myself, well, I'm just going to get attached to an agency. I'm not necessarily going to worry about taking acting classes, yada, yada, yada. But then I'm like, girl, look, this is me talking to myself. I'm like, if you care about this, you need to continue to sharpen your tool. Get your butt in acting classes. So now I'm trying to find an agency. I'm looking up agencies, and they're like, yeah, they just have their requirements, and being active in a current acting class is important to them, because you're not about to be representing us and you ain't no good. And yeah, like we're really dedicated to being healthy all around. Like I'm trying to be healthy physically, spiritually, especially financially. And I've really been like changing my outlook on everything. And I've been trying to just train my mind to think differently. Because the Bible tells us that we have to constantly renew our thoughts and that we need to keep our mind on Christ. So that way, when issues and misfortunes occur, I'm not going down a spiral. I'm not letting shame take over me. I'm not letting sadness take over me to the point where I now become stagnant and I'm not moving toward what my destiny is. And because I've done that, I've done the thing where I low key wanted to give up, or I've done the thing where I've kind of like pressed pause and was just unsure, or have procrastinated so much to the point now you're not doing anything, or trying to be such a perfectionist and now you're just frozen. And so, and then too, I think it kind of comes with age as well. You're like, okay, well, look, I'm not getting no younger. I'm not getting, I don't know how much time I have. And so I really want to use the rest of the time that I have on this earth to do what it is that God has for me to do. And not for me, but to bring glory to his name. That's for me. I don't know about nobody else, but that's just kind of like where my mind is. And so, and my daughter, my baby, she's just thriving. Like she's doing all the toddler things. She's in speech therapy and physical therapy. I'm just so proud of her. And I just can see it on her. Like I could just tell that she is going to do some amazing things. But I feel like the main thing is choosing. It sounds so cliche, but joy, gratefulness, thankfulness, you have to choose those things, because the negative feelings that we feel, that's a choice too. Things could be going every which way in life, but how do you choose to respond? How do you choose to move on after that? Any situation can change. And I truly believe that. Like, I never wanted to live a regular life. And when I look at my life, it's been everything but regular. I've moved 50,000 million times. I've picked up and put down, and that's okay. Because we are forever changing and growing, and that should be the point. The point is to grow upward. That's not to say that life is not going to take a dip, but I'm not going to keep going down no slide. Get me off of this ride. I'm all about progressing, and I'm not trying to, like, everything is not just peachy keen all the time, super positive, yada yada. But I'm really making an effort to change the way that I think. Because if you think in a particular way, that is what is embedded in your heart, and whatever is in your heart is what's going to reflect out into your life. The Bible tells us from the heart life flows. It also tells us to renew our minds daily and to change our thinking pattern. That is up to you. So if I think positively, or if I change the pathways of my brain, and if I speak what I actually want, and I'm not even really talking about manifesting, but just if I speak what I actually want, my heart posture will change, and I'll begin to move toward a favorite outcome. Even if it's different from what I expect, because I've been training my brain to do better. When things go left, because I've been keeping my mind on the Lord, I can be like, okay, God, this is crazy, but I know you got me, and I know I'm okay, and I know I'll be all right. And so that's just been for me. I don't know what everybody else got going on, but that's what's going on in my household. But life is full of flipping it and reversing. Okay, make Aaliyah proud. Dust yourself off and try again. We don't have time for the BS. I can see where my life is going. I have to just see it. I have to see if it's gonna be if it can get there. I see it clearly where I can be. So I'm gonna test myself daily, and I'm gonna believe in God that He has a favorite outcome for me, even if it's different from what I thought it would be, because he knows me better than I know myself. I'm still be cooling. So like it could literally only be up from here. I had such a great convo with my friend the other day and we were just talking about, hey, things are gonna keep going, whether you're in or you're out. So what are you gonna do? Yeah, life is all about the pivot. Don't be afraid to stop, rewind, turn around, U-turn, whatever it is that you gotta do, but never stop moving. What you're doing does not have to make sense to anybody. As long as you're tracking with the Lord, it don't even gotta make sense to you. Cause I didn't choose this. I did not choose this. But I believe in myself and I trust in the Lord. And so, baby, that's all I need. But if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening to me up and thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye.